Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Guys, so Errol Spence is voted or ranked the number one welterweight in the world by Ring Magazine. Listen, I've been kind of reluctant to rank anybody number one, number two, number three right now because I think there's too much to play for. I understand why Ring Magazine have ranked him number one. He's a unified champion of the world. He holds more than one belt, which no other welterweight holds right now. But the only problem is I don't think there's any distinct number one right now. I don't think you can say Pacquiao's number one. I don't think you can say Crawford's number one. I don't think you can say Errol Spence is number one. All these three have to fight each other to get an undisputed champion. I think whoever comes out on top, whoever wins, is the number one. I think, Manny Pacquiao fans will say Manny Pacquiao's number one, but he only holds one belt. Errol Spence holds two belts. Crawford holds one belt, but Crawford has recently been an undisputed champion. So at the end of the day, we have to have these guys fight one another. Until they fight one another, there isn't a number one. There isn't a number two because we don't know. We don't know. We don't know if Pacquiao beats Spence or Crawford. We don't know if Crawford beats Spence. We don't know if Spence beats Pacquiao or Crawford. So to put somebody number one, I think is very premature. Although I think obviously Ring Magazine have to rank someone. So the fact that Errol Spence has got two belts, they're going to rank him number one. But in my eyes, is he number one? I've said that I'm not going to rank anyone number one, number two, number three until they fight each other. Because I don't know. Because I think it's too close between them all. I feel Pacquiao on any given night can beat those guys. And I feel like Errol Spence and Crawford on their given night can beat Pacquiao. And I think Spence and Crawford on their night could beat one another. So I feel like they all need to fight each other for us to kind of come to a distinct, yeah, he's number one. I think until they actually get in the ring and fight, I don't think you can say anybody's number one in the welterweight division. Yes, I understand that rankings have to be done and somebody has to be given the number one mantle and you have to say, well, this guy's number one. And I understand why they've put Errol Spence number one because of the fact that he's a unified champion. He currently holds out of the 4 belts, he holds 2 of them. So I clearly understand why they've ranked him number one, Ring Magazine. But do I think he's number one? I don't know. Until they fight, I'm not gonna call anybody number one because you don't know. Because after watching Errol Spence v Sean Porter, what that showed me is that Errol Spence is not that far ahead of anybody, right? And that was a very close fight that could have gone either way. One round here or there, and we may have been talking about Sean Porter, who was the unified champ, not Errol Spence. So that when it's that close, right? And Porter wasn't even seen as good as Thurman. Let's be real. Porter wasn't seen as good as Thurman. And he gave Spence that kind of tough fight. And people were expecting Spence to win by knockout and distinguish himself and separate himself from the other welterweights. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. So even more so now, I think that these guys need to fight each other for us to see who's the best. Because Spence didn't separate himself from any other welterweight in that fight. He actually showed that they're actually even closer than what we all thought. And I think it makes for interesting fights. But I think for Ring Magazine to rank Errol Spence number one, I understand because they have to give somebody the number one status, and the fact that he holds 2 of the belts, of course he's gonna have that number one. He's gonna have that number one ranking. However, I don't think anybody's number one right now. I think it's all to play for. I think until they fight one another, we can't rank anybody number one. So you can have your opinion. You can say Pacquiao's number one, but you can't say that distinguishedly until Pacquiao beats Spence or Crawford. And the same with Crawford and Spence. Until they beat Pacquiao, they can't be ranked number one. Until they beat one another, they can't be ranked number one. So that's how I feel, because there's 3 champions right now. There's Spence, Crawford, and Pacquiao. And we're not talking about weak champions. There's no weak champion in there. You know what I mean? They're all capable of beating each other. So it's not like, normally you have, oh, well, I think Spence is. Some people may think Spence is. But the fact is Crawford and Pacquiao are formidable champions. We're talking about, great fighters here. We're not talking about... So I think they're all evenly matched right now. The fact that they're evenly matched, Pacquiao's 41, so I still think he's evenly matched with those guys. Maybe, most people will think he's probably a little bit below them. But I still think on his given night, if Pacquiao performs, he can beat them. So as far as I'm concerned, if I think he can beat them, then I think I think that, you know, nobody's number one until they actually beat one another. So that's my take. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.